We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back, though, and talk more about the security and what you can do as an individual to make a difference. More with Angelina Jolie in just a moment.
The situation in Darfur may become unmanageable unless more efforts are made both at the negotiation table and on the ground.
That's the United Nations Special Envoy to Sudan with a dire prediction about the country's future. Back with actress Angelina Jolie, who has visited the Darfur region of Sudan twice this year. She is a Goodwill Ambassador for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Angelina, you follow this as well as anybody. There was a ceasefire negotiated beginning in November, around the 9th, but the violence has gotten worse. Why?
Well, because that's not enough, I suppose. I really don't have all the answers. There's a lot in trying to figure out this. There seems to be a lot that we don't understand that's going on. There are a lot of politics involved, I think, in this situation. I don't understand why the government's being allowed to why it hasn't been. It has not disarmed the Janjaweed. It has not, held them accountable for what's going on. I do believe they are working with the Janjaweed.
That the government is working with the Janjaweed.
That the government was a part of supporting them. When you talk to refugees or people that have crossed over borders and they talk about helicopters following them, that's not nomadic people on camels. That's the Janjaweed. That a helicopter is from something else. Is from some other. That's too big. That came from a government. That came from something more. There's a lot of stuff like that.
But here's the deal.
So there's something else going on.
The Security Council says it will take appropriate action. We just heard John Pronk, the envoy to the Sudan, with all these dire predictions. The United States has called it genocide. I keep thinking 10 years ago, and everybody talked about Rwanda, and the world stood by and did nothing.
Yeah, and then that was 100 days, and this is 20 months.
So what does it take?
I don't know. I know, I wish I had the answers. I wish I could solve it. I know that a lot of, that we should probably focus, something needs to very strongly happen. So, and I'm not somebody who is for, there's violence in this area and it must be met with force, and I don't believe that should be, that's why I say we need to strengthen the African Union, or else sooner or later we're going to have to come in our own, troops.
Let me get your reaction to John Danforth, who, is the United States representative to the United Nations. And this is what he said about the American position on Darfur. He said, it is going to be inaction. It is going to be condoning atrocities. It's going to be the failure to support the people of Sudan who are suffering terribly. And the message from the General Assembly of the United Nations is very simple. Quote, you may be suffering, but we can't be bothered. That's a horrible image for anyone to make about the United Nations.
It's simply not true. I mean, the fact is, I've been on the ground, and I'm not saying that the United Nations couldn't do more, but like I said, they are not the political force. They're not able to do as much. They weren't able to stop Iraq from happening. They aren't able to do as much as maybe they'd even like to do. Can they take down and deal with the government of Sudan? And, they have to be, unfortunately, they're this body that, fortunately or unfortunately, they have to be kind of balanced in this way where they have to be allowed to work inside country.
Yeah.
They have to be allowed to get access to the people. When I've been in the ground, I have seen, you can say what you want about the United Nations, but if they stopped working tomorrow, millions of people would be dead. There are people in the ground, a lot of United Nations workers risking their lives, working very closely with these NGOs and doing everything that they can to help the people in the situation. They do need a political solution so they can properly do their work.
Which is, I know, why you came in, why you went to the UN a couple of years ago and said, hey, I want to do what I can, use my celebrity for something good, and try to play a constructive role in dealing with some of the world's problems. What is it you would like to see people take from your own example? They obviously can't travel to Darfur and see what you've seen, but they can live through your experience.
I think for all of us, I grew up, I thought pretty well educated and pretty worldly, and I realized there was so much I didn't know about other countries and other peoples, and And we shouldn't just trust our headlines and just our news programs. We need to really investigate and learn about the world around us and care. And we need to raise our children to really care about children in Africa and children in Asia and their histories and their futures. And you know, I think for everybody who wants to get involved, I think you should find the thing that calls to your heart. Mine was refugees.
Right.
I think, you know, to each his own, but you'll find something that matters to you, and just to follow it and educate yourself. And it's a duty to educate our children.
I know you have your own little boy who's, what, 3, 4 years old. What do you tell him about Mommy's work with the refugees? How do you explain it to a child that small?
Well, he's Cambodian, my son, so his biological parents probably were refugees, and his whole country is very much lives that still. They're all returnees, most of them. So he will grow up around it. He's visited refugee camps. He was recently on the Thai-Burma border. So he just lives it. He's getting to know them as he plays with their children, and he knows them as friends, and he just he's witnessing the world as it is, out of balance, and a lot of. So I'm not gonna tell him. I'll let him just learn for himself and watch.
Well, keep up the good fight. Angelina Jolie, thank you very much for coming on to talk about this. We appreciate it.
Thank you.